So we're starting on page 40. This is the chapter called The Party. Before you begin this chapter, you need to define a few words. The first one is effigy on page 41. Then you go to page 43 and find the word sentiment, and define sentiment. And finally, you will need to go to page 45 to find the word euphoria. Euphoria. Once you have all of those words defined and marked in your book, go back and get started. So hit pause and make sure you have all three of those done now. After Black Friday, there was one massacre after another. Many people were killed. The end of the Shah's regime was near. One day he made a declaration on TV. I understand your revolt. Together we will try to march towards democracy. After all that he's done, quiet. For a few months he actually did try. He tested a dozen prime ministers. A Freemason? That's not suitable. You remind them too much of their father. Too thin, too short, one-eyed. The more he tried democracy, the more his statues were torn down. Pull a little more to the left. Then his effigy was burned. The people wanted only one thing, his departure. So finally, out, 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 the people yell. He leaves. We will never forget you. So crowd saying to pull a little more to the left. The left, whenever you're talking about politically, supports the idea of social equality. So they're trying to say you need to be a little bit more equal, is what they're trying to say when they do that. You can also, on these two pages, label one of your theme seats, rebellion. Where do you think you could label rebellion? So make sure that you make this annotation over here on page 41 regarding pulling a little to the left. And the day he left, the country had the biggest celebration of its entire history. So you see all the people and how happy and excited they are. Notice none of the people in that picture are wearing veils. There's a mixture of men and women, all different types of people. Jimmy Carter, the President of the United States, refused to give refuge to the exiled Shah and his family. It looks like Carter has forgotten his friend. All that interests him is oil. It's Anwar al-Sadat who will accept him into his country. Who's he? He's the president of Egypt. And why is he in the Shah? They've been friends for a long time. They both betrayed countries of our region by making a pact with Israel. In any case, as long as there is oil in the Middle East, we will never have peace. Let's talk about something else. Let's enjoy our new freedom now that the devil has left. Maybe Sadat welcomed the Shah because his first wife was Egyptian. Surely not. Politics and sentiment don't mix. All right, so you have a few things happening on this page here. The first thing that you should notice, it says, for what political reason did Jimmy Carter refuse refuge to the Shah and his family? Right at the top of page 43. So right here is where we learn that Carter, the President of the United States, refused to let them come in. But why is that? Well, remember the United States has an interest in the oil in the Middle East. And if we accept this guy into our country and we give him refuge, then the country isn't going to work with us anymore regarding that oil. So we have to pretend that we don't like him. So the United States is flip-flopping their loyalties in the interest of oil. So the reason we refuse to give that family that Shah has refuge is because we're interested in the oil, and they can't be interested in the oil and help the enemy at the same time. Now, also on page 43, Evie makes a statement there will never be peace in the Middle East as long as there is oil. Do you think there's any truth to this saying? Do you think there's any truth to it? This one right here. This is when the Father says, as long as there's oil in the Middle East, they will never have. Think about their past. Think about why they were invaded so many times over the years. It was because of the country's wealth. It's because of what they have. And now that they have oil, people are going to constantly be after that. They're explaining that in the margin on page 43. Also on page 43, we're taking a look at this one right down here at the bottom, right here. This is probably the most important one on the page. So this picture has irony behind it. I want you to think about it. What does the thing wrapping itself around this frame symbolize? You can look back at your notes if you want to, and then look at what they're saying. So what they're saying as they're sitting here is, let's talk about something to enjoy our freedom. And she's like, yeah, now that the devil is left because they got rid of the bad guy, right? Well, they believe that the Shah left now that they're free from the devil, which would be the Shah. They believe that they're free from him because they kicked him out. But really, the devil is just closing in. They are not really free, and they don't even know it yet. Things are going to get really bad for them. Look, we're on page 43 of the book, and we have the rest of the book to go, so you know things have to get bad, right? And end here with the big revolution. Everybody's excited. Remember, there were two sides to the revolution, and neither side agreed. Even the only thing they agreed on was that they wanted the Shah to go. The Shah is gone. Someone's going to take his place, and it's going to be something even worse. So they think they have freedom, but they don't. You're talking about that irony right here on the bottom of page 43. Go on to the next page. After all this joy, a major misfortune took place. The schools closed during this period, reopened, and children, tear out all the photos of the Shah from your book. But wasn't she the one that told us that the Shah was chosen by God? The teacher, she says that the Shah was chosen by God. Robin, you shouldn't say things like that. Stand in the corner. And now she's being punished for saying what the teacher told her at the beginning of the year. They're having to go through and tear pictures of this guy out of the book, and they were praising him just before they came, and now they come back after the break, and she's in trouble for saying what they said. The strange phenomena were everywhere. Hello, dear neighbors. Hello. All those demonstrations were really tiring, but I finally succeeded. Look, a bullet almost hit my wife's cheek. Liberty is priceless. Oh, what nerve. She's always had that nasty spot. If we weren't neighbors, we would have said she was a martyr raised from the dead. The battle was over for our parents, not for us. My father says Raman's father was in the Salvek, and he killed 1 million people. 1 million? And look down here, Salvek has a star next to it. That is the secret police of the Shah's regime. It gives us the definition at the bottom. So in the name of the dead million, we'll teach Raman a good lesson. I have an idea. My idea was to put nails between our fingers like American brass knuckles and to attack Raman. Raman, come out of hiding. Don't be a wimp. But my mother arrived in the middle of our euphoria. So, kids, what are you up to? Marge found some nails, and we're going to beat up Raman. His father killed 1 million people. So, that's what you want? Nail Raman? Get into the car. I have a better solution. Really? What's that? Where'd you find those nails? Dad's toolbox. What would you say if I nailed your ears to the wall? Wow, that would hurt a lot. All right, let's pause for a second and talk about that. So, at the top of page 45, you are supposed to write about the changes that have occurred in Marjane's life since the removal of the Shah. So, take a look right here. What are some of the changes that have happened in her life? You've got some instances right here, and you have some instances right here. Think about how they're playing. Are they playing differently than they played before? So, at the top of page 45, you are supposed to be writing about some of the changes. So up here, write about some of the changes that have taken place. I see that I skipped one. there's a metaphor that's being used on page 43 to describe the Shah. You had to highlight it. We did talk about it, but make sure that you go back over here and you highlight the metaphor that's being used to describe the Shah, about what I said in regards to the picture. All right, so Marjane and her friends, they're mad. They didn't get to do the protesting and everything. They think it's all over for the parents. Everything's good, but it's not. And then they hear that one of their friend fathers killed 1 million people. Probably not true. And they decide to take matters into their own hands. So thankfully, Marjane's mom shows up just in time to finish it. I'll let it go this time. Don't do it again. But Mom, Raman's father killed. I know. His father did it, but it's not Raman's fault. Anyway, it's not for you and me to do that. I'd even say we have to learn to forgive. Your father is a murderer, but it's not your fault, so I'll forgive you. He is not a murderer. He killed communists, and communists are evil. Mom, I spoke to Raman. He said his father did right thing in killing communists. My God, he repeats what they tell him. Well, he will understand. Forgive someone really, really good. So she listened to her mom and her mom's advice, and she decided to go and apologize, right? So she wanted to attack him because he had killed all those people. His father had killed all those people. His mother, her mother, talks to her and lets her know that it's not his fault. So how does she feel about herself now? She went to him, she forgave him, she started trying to come up with this new thought process. She's trying to be a little bit more mature. She's answering all those questions right up here on the top of page 46. Why did she want to attack him? What did her mother tell her? How does she feel about herself now? Here, that's where you should be writing at. And we're going to start on the heroes. The heroes. So you have your notes in front of you, and you have several words that you have to define in this chapter. On page 47, you have 2 words. You have liberated and subversive. Liberated and subversive. Both of those words are on this page, and you need to define them. This is on page 47. Here's liberated up here. Subversive right here. But subversive articles. Also, define evil on page 49. And the page 51, and the word cyanide. Cyanide. And finally, you need to go to page 53 and identify the word diabolical. Right in the gutter here. Okay? So once you have all those words defined, you're ready to read the chapter. So, the heroes. Political prisoners were liberated a few days later. There were 3,000 of them. So all the people that were put in jail by the old Shah were liberated. They were set free. We knew 2 of them. Simak, he was born in February 1945 in Leicestershire. He's a journalist. He wrote some secret articles. He was imprisoned in July of 1973 and released in March of 1979. He's a communist, and he is friends with Marjane's family. And Mohsen also was a communist. He was imprisoned in 1971 and he was released in 1979. He was, his crime was that he was a revolutionary. He was a revolutionist. He went to protest that type of thing against the government. So that's why he was in prison. So both of them were in prison for basically the same type of thing. Okay. I heard about Simek even before the revolution. He was the husband of my mother's best friend. long since you've had any news about him? 10 months? I'll bring Lally with you and come by today. We'll talk about it. Lally was Max's daughter. Father, I'm sure he knew I was a grandpa, and Lally was running away because Marjane thinks she's just told her the truth. The truth is sometimes hard to accept. She runs into her mom. Boo-hoo, Marjane says that Daddy is dead. Oh, no, of course he's not. Go to your room and stay there. Nobody will accept the truth, she says. After the revolution, I realized that you could be mistaken. Today is a great day, darling. We have invited Lally's father and Motion, since they both just left prison. Lally's father? What does he look like? You'll soon find out. Ding dong. Samak, I'm so happy that you're back. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. I know. Oh, Taj, still a beauty. What's this? Oh, still a flatterer. And this must be Marge. Lord, the last time I saw her, she was only 3 years old. Time is irretrievable. When they arrested me, Lally barely spoke, and now she's a real young lady. Well, yes. You want to play? No. That must be Motion. Why doesn't Lally want to play with Marjane? Right? Because last time they were together, Marjane told her that her father was dead, and he was not. So she's kind of mad about it. All right, so now Motion's at the door. Motion, for God's sake. I heard that. Me, dead. What a joke. In prison, they called me the man with 7 lives. You know each other? In prison, we all know each other. You remember the day they pulled out my nails? They've come back since. Not in a normal way, but at least I have them. Our torturers received special training from the CIA. Real scientists. They knew each part of the body and they knew where to put it. On your soul, there are nerves directly to the brain. And when they whip things, they keep it up so much. Not to mention our back. They knew that Ahmedi was assassinated as a member of the guerrillas. He suffered hell. He always had cyanide on him. He was arrested. He was taken by surprise and unfortunately never had a chance to use it. He suffered the worst torture. Yes, where are the others? How do you like this? And they burned him with an iron. I never imagined that you could use an appliance for torture. So we've got lots of bad things going on here. So we heard that these guys weren't just imprisoned, but they were really, really tortured while they were in prison. So on the top of page 51, you have to write all the ways Tropi describes how the revolutionaries were punished in jail. You can refer to the pictures or the words, however you want to do it, but make a little list up here of all the ways they were tortured while they were in jail. That's at the top of 51. In the end, he was cut. He was in my class at the university. It's a good thing they didn't kill your father in prison. But you have to admit, I wasn't completely wrong when I said he wasn't on a trip. Maybe, but my father is a hero. All torture should be massacred. That's Marjane's mom. Remember when she was just talking about forgiveness? My father was not a hero. My mother wanted to kill people, so I went outside to play in the street. Those stories have given me new ideas for games. The one who loses will be tortured. Yeah, what kind of torture? I have an imagination too. The mustache on fire torture consists of pulling the 2 sides of the upper lip, the twisted arm, the mouth filled with garbage. Back at home that evening, I had the diabolical feeling of power. But I was overwhelmed. Don't cry, John. They will pay for what but I thought we should forgive. Bad people are forgiving them is I don't know what justice was. Now that the revolution was finally over once and for all, I abandoned the dialectic materialism of my comic strips. The only place I felt safe was in the arms of my friend. And look, God has come back to her. So we're on page 53. And, well, let's do 52 first. How has the recounting of Amati, Moshe, Simek's imprisonment affected Marjane and her mother? Write your answers at the top of page 52. So on one side, write how it's affected Marjane. How is she feeling now? What are her thoughts and feelings? And how has it affected Mom? Look, here's Mom. How has it affected her? Over here as well. Look at what she's saying here and what she's saying here. So Mom and Marjane have been affected differently. So you're going to write about both of those feelings up here. On the top of page 53, up here, A, you are telling me in your own words the meaning of justice. And then answer to me, how is justice obtained for what happened to Amati? Is justice obtained for him? What are your thoughts? That's what goes at the top of page 53. On the bottom of page 53, you're explaining why Marjane has decided to abandon her dialectic materialism. If you need to go back to page 12 to see how you define dialectic materialism, then I suggest you flip back. How does that idea now have a new impact on her and her beliefs? Her feelings, her thoughts have changed since the beginning of the book. She no longer thinks the same as she did. Why? You're explaining that right here on the bottom of page 53. We're going to come back over here to the bottom of page 52, and I want you to tell me about a hero. What does Marjane think a hero is, and why is she upset? So Lally says her father is a hero, but looks like Marjane is not so sure about things anymore. What do you think she thinks a hero is? Look at how she reacts the next day. What does she think a hero has to do in order to be a hero? Make sure that you go back through these pages and find the themes: rebellion, self-realization and growing up, and religion, and mark those in your book. That's where we'll stop.